Hi, it's Sunday, January 19th, and we've got a few systems to talk about briefly today across the tropics. We're first going to touch on Tropical Cyclone Sean, which was just named north of Western Australia. And we've also got a couple areas of interest to watch in the Indian Ocean, including one in the Mozambique Channel. We could potentially see some further impacts in Mozambique and Madagascar from a new system as Keledy now passes well to the southeast of Madagascar. So we're going to start off with Tropical Cyclone Sean. You can see the system is doing okay. It is dealing with a little bit of easterly shear. You can see the center of circulation in the visible imagery appears to be here, at least to the eye. The most prominent circulation in the surface layer seems to be about there on the eastern end of the bulk of the convection. And this highlights some shear brought on by a little bit of a displacement of a high pressure system aloft. You can see this if we look at the water vapor imagery. You can see that we do have southerly flow here over more central Australia, but we do have some cloud elements here east of our storm center moving to the south, indicating that the high pressure system center is off to the east of where our storm is centered. You can see this better if we look at the European ensemble. This is the upper level wind profile showing you where the high pressure system is centered on this map. And you can see where the center is around where I just laid it out there on that water vapor imagery. Because of this displacement, we have a little bit of easterly shear. Now this shear is not very strong. This is in the low shear category. You can see that with the GFS sounding here, generally about 10 knots on this wind shear forecast. And the highest I've seen is getting up towards about 15 knots. That's getting up to about a moderate wind shear, but we're not expecting the shear to be very detrimental to the system. And it's likely to still intensify some as it continues pushing off towards the west. And you can see this if we look at the GFS. This is the 200 millibar or upper level wind plot with the storm center in red here with the 986 on top. And you can see as we track further west, we do see that pressure number fall, even as we have these stronger winds come up in the upper levels of the atmosphere. So the shear is not very strong to really inhibit intensification, but it may cause some struggles for the system over the next couple of days. But regardless, you see the GFS does intensify it, perhaps to something stronger. Maybe it does get a little bit more of a better positioning with the upper level high pressure system later in the new week, but you can see it remains away from northwestern Australia, which is most important in this forecast. And the good news is here, while we do have some impacts coming along the immediate coastline, we're not expecting the system to come ashore thanks to a high pressure system building in southwestern Australia. You can see this on the GFS ensemble. This is showing you the mid-layer steering, and we have this big area of high pressure that's building up in southern and southwestern Australia. This is going to set up sort of a barrier, if you will, that's going to keep this system pretty much at a similar latitude to where it is now, so keeping it away from northwestern Australia. Now, having said that, we could still have some impacts. You can see that we do have convection coming upon the coastline this morning, and this will continue along this entire northwestern part of the coast for the next couple of days. And for that reason, the Bureau of Meteorology has issued a cyclone warning for a decent part of the northwestern coastline of northwestern Australia. But you can see in general, we're avoiding a landfall entirely out of this, but we could still see with these wind fields grazing the coast, some impacts continuing from, say around Port Hedland down all the way to the northwestern tip of Western Australia. And you can see it could get to a decent intensity. We have category 3 on the forecast from the Bureau of Meteorology. Could we get, category 4? And this is Australian scale, not Saffir-Simpson, but Australian scale, we certainly may approach that intensity as we go in time, especially if we get a more favorable environment for the system. But you can see on the long range forecast, keeping the system pretty far away as it peaks out west of Australia. But we may need to watch it again for more non-tropical impacts in southwestern Australia. As you can see, the system, whatever it becomes in post-tropical transition, it could end up looping back around and we could see some impacts there. But that will be as a more non-tropical system, not as a cyclone, as the waters are very cold down here and not supportive of a tropical cyclone. Here's that map again, showing you where the cyclone warning is in orange. And again, this is being named Tropical Cyclone Sean by the Bureau of Meteorology. We'll probably have that official designation by the time this video comes out. So stay safe as the system does pass north. I do want to talk about briefly another system that we could be looking at in the Indian Ocean. We do have two areas of interest from Mateo France right now. You can see we have a big one out here in the central Indian Ocean. If we do get any development out of this, it could potentially be something to watch later down the road for some of the islands further west, but that is further down the road, so we'll talk about that in due time when we get there. But you can see here in the Mozambique Channel, we also have an area of low pressure that could develop in the Mozambique Channel, and it could spin up into some form of system, whether that's just a tropical low or if it's a tropical cyclone remains to be seen, but models like the GFS are showing that this is a decent possibility. And the setup here is sort of, in a way, tied to Dekelity. You can see the system here racing off towards the south and east, now well southeast of Madagascar. But we have this little trail here of orange and yellow streaks on this map. And this is a little frontal boundary that is being left behind by Dekelity. And this is now stretching off northwest over Madagascar and into the Mozambique Channel. And as we get high pressure building to the south, some of this energy is going to get pulled back northwest. You'll see this happen. We get a little bit of energy concentration over Madagascar, and that enters the Mozambique Channel as a more broad area of low pressure. Now, the system is going to be likely meandering around the area for some time. You can see we do get a trough here digging in after the high pressure system moves east, but this is not going to sustain for long before another high pressure system builds up. So the system may end up tracking southeast for a time, and then as this next high pressure system moves in, move back northwest. So the general key message is that the system will likely be sitting in this region for several days. And it remains to be seen, where does it actually stall? Does it stall over the ocean? Does it stall over land? That is a question that we need to figure out before we talk, about any higher potential TC development odds. The GFS is pretty adamant here on showing it being over water, and if it is over water, the environment is in general favorable. You can see on the GFS ensemble, we have this counterclockwise turning in the upper layers of the atmosphere, showing that we have high pressure draped right over this system, and this would be supportive with the warm sea surface temperatures in the Mozambique Channel for tropical development. And for what it's worth, we can also see the European model, not as defined of an area of high pressure being developed, perhaps a sign that the European ensemble was a little less bullish or aggressive on showing the system actually develop, but we do still see some of this counterclockwise turning, which would indicate a generally low shear, favorable environment for the system to develop. And exact intensity, we don't know the specifics here. This could end up being a broad system, as you can see on the GFS. This would have difficulty intensifying, but regardless, we could certainly expect increased rainfall again in eastern Mozambique and across Madagascar as the system develops, and certainly could cause some more flooding issues from some of the rainfall we got from Dekelity in both regions. So we'll pay attention to this over the next several days. And we'll also keep an eye on this next system in the central Indian Ocean. We did talk about a few days ago how the Indian Ocean and Australian region were probably going to fire up a little bit over the next couple of weeks, and we're likely starting to see some of those signs on model guidance now. That's all that I've got for today. Stay safe in northwestern Australia as Sean comes through. I'll have more videos throughout the week as necessary on Sean and on the Indian Ocean systems, but as of right now, that's all I've got. Thanks for watching.